Hey guys, how are you today? Quick rant before we dive into today's chaos. As some of you might have noticed, YouTube's algorithm has decided I'm not special anymore. Shocking, I know. So now if you don't like, comment, or do a little backflip in the algorithm's honor, this video might just vanish into the void, never to be seen again. Seriously though, even a hi or "this is wild" in the comments helps way more than you think. It tells YouTube, hey, people actually like this channel. Maybe don't hide it from everyone. That can really help push my videos out to a wider audience, not just to my subscribers. So if you enjoy these stories and want to support the channel, that's the best way to do it. Now grab a drink, get comfy, and enjoy the drama. You won't want to miss this one. My ex-husband James, 42 male, and I, 42 female, got divorced 10 years ago. But we have continued to co-parent our daughter Katie, 16 female. She celebrated her 16th birthday recently, and for the past couple of months, she had been asking for a car, and James promised her that he would get her one. She had already been learning how to drive my car, and she was reasonably good. So she was ready. James and I had spoken about it, and he had told me that he would pay for 60% of the cost, and I had to cover the rest, and I was fine with it. So we were looking forward to this. But then, at the last minute, just 1 or 2 weeks before her birthday, James called me and told me that he wouldn't be able to buy the car. He had apparently ran into some unexpected expenditures and wouldn't be able to afford a car this month. It would probably take him a few more weeks. I wasn't happy about it because for months he had been promising our daughter that he would get her the car, and at the last minute he was bailing. I tried to get a reason out of him, but he said that it was personal and didn't explain further. He didn't even have the decency to inform Katie about it himself. He made me do it, and I could tell that she was heartbroken when she found out, but she tried her best to be reasonable about it. That was a few weeks ago. But then recently she told me that she had decided that she was not going to talk to her father because she found out that he had lied about some things. Katie splits her time with us on a weekly basis, so she spends 4 days of the week with me, and on Fridays she heads to her father's place for the weekend. So after he said that he wouldn't be able to get her the car, she still went over to his place for the weekend. They spent time together and they talked it out. He explained to her that he had some unexpected things that had suddenly come up, and he apologized to her a lot, so she didn't make a big deal out of it. Her birthday went smoothly. Everything was fine. But then earlier this week, she told me that she wouldn't be going over to her dad's place this weekend. And when I asked her, she told me that he had lied about these unexpected events because apparently he had blown the money on his stepdaughter. So, for context, James remarried 4 years ago, and he has 2 stepchildren from that marriage. His stepson is 22, and his stepdaughter is 18. Katie is not very close with her step-siblings, but they're not exactly enemies either. They get along reasonably well. Anyway, she follows all of them on social media, and recently she noticed that her stepsister Gina had been holidaying in France with a bunch of her friends, and she had been posting about it frequently for a while. And just a few days ago, Gina apparently posted a story for James, thanking him for sponsoring this whole trip for her and her friends as her graduation gift. And that was it. Katie put 2 and 2 together and realized that the money that her father was supposed to spend on buying her a car for her birthday gift, he blew that and a lot more on sending Gina and her friends on an all-expenses-paid trip to Europe for 3 weeks. All the dates and everything matched, and it was quite a bit through the math. To make it even more suspicious, just a couple of hours after she had put that story up for James, Gina took it down, but by then Katie had already seen it. She did not confront her father. She just stopped speaking to him. Obviously, I knew everything that was going on, so I was pretty upset about it as well, and did not speak to him. I didn't even tell Katie to go to his place the previous weekend because she was upset, and so was I. Neither of us has been responding to any of his calls or texts, even though he has apologized several times. I know because I think he has figured out that we know. And a couple of hours ago, he sent me a text saying that I was being extremely immature, and he could understand this kind of behavior from Katie. But I was being unreasonable. He told me that he had already promised Gina and his wife that he would pay for this trip several months ago, even before he had promised Katie the car, and it had slipped his mind until recently. He did not want to break Katie's heart. So, he did not bring any of this up, even after he realized that he wouldn't be able to get her the car, and she wasn't even meant to find out. And he told me that as her mother, I should do the right thing and ask her to speak to him and sort things out, because that's what my duty is as a parent. But instead, I'm being irrational and acting overly emotional and bratty, just like her. He said that I was being petty, childish, and whatnot, and that instead of behaving like this and turning her against him even more, I should be setting her on the right track, and I should help him out here. Now, I don't know what to think because I personally believe that Katie doesn't need to talk to him if she doesn't want to. But on the other hand, he does have a point. Maybe I am being a little too childish about this. Am I an a-hole for not wanting to help my ex-husband get our daughter back on speaking terms with him? Edit. Hi. So, James and I met in business school. That's how we got together, and we got married soon after we graduated. The reason that we got divorced was that our marriage wasn't working out for a while. We had been compatible, and we got along well, but I guess we just fell out of love. However, we have remained friends, and there is no bitterness between the two of us, since you guys were asking about that. And as to why I couldn't buy Katie the car, and why I was relying on him for 60% of the cost, well, he makes a lot more money than I do, so I think it's only fair. Financially, I only depend on him for Katie, but other than that, I never use any of the money that he sends for myself. I do receive child support, but it's all for Katie, and I have enough dignity not to use that for myself. And I would appreciate it if people did not imply otherwise without even knowing the truth. I'm not a gold digger. I don't need to be one because I have my own business. But the business that I have is one that I have started on my own, from scratch. So naturally, I'm not in the same position as James. He took over from his father. His father had already worked pretty hard on their company, so I think it's pretty normal for him to make more money than I do. And he doesn't have a problem with paying more, nor do I. This is our arrangement, and I think it's completely fair. It's not like I owe anybody an explanation, but since a lot of people were implying certain things, I just wanted to clear that up. Hopefully it's all transparent now. Not the a-hole. OP's ex didn't forget. He made a choice. He promised his biological daughter a car for months, let her get excited, then quietly funded a 3-week Europe vacation for his stepdaughter, and hoped no one would connect the dots. The lie is the worst part. Calling Katie entitled for being hurt is unfair and dismissive. She didn't feel entitled to a car. She felt betrayed by her father's dishonesty. And now let's hear community's opinion. Not the a-hole. The whole, as her mother, it's your duty to fix this argument, is just him trying to shift responsibility. He doesn't want to face the consequences of his own actions, so he's pressuring you to smooth things over for him. Katie is old enough to decide when she's ready to talk, and forcing her to do it would only teach her that her feelings don't matter. He needs to apologize to her directly and take full accountability without blaming you. Not the a-hole, and this feels less like a mistake and more like a priorities problem. When money became tight, your daughter was the one who lost out while his stepdaughter got a luxury trip. That's painful, especially when he tried to hide it. He could have been honest months ago and managed expectations. Instead, he lied and now wants sympathy because the truth came out. Not the a-hole. You're not turning Katie against her father. He did that himself. Katie's reaction is actually very mature. She didn't explode or demand anything. She simply pulled back when she realized she couldn't trust him. Your role here is to support your daughter, not protect your ex-husband from the consequences of his choices. If he wants to rebuild the relationship, that work is on him, not on you. Update 1. So, it's been a few days since my post, and yesterday, I finally picked up one of his calls. He had been trying to get through to me for several days now, but I had been ignoring him, especially after that text that he sent me. I had felt bad about it, and I did consider the fact that maybe I was being childish and immature, but frankly speaking, he had been very dishonest, and I hadn't expected something like that out of him, nor had Katie. So, I think my decision to give him the silent treatment and ignore him for as long as Katie was completely justified. Yes, we are friends, and we are Katie's parents, but first and foremost, I'm her mother, and I couldn't just pretend that everything was fine when it obviously was not. He should have prioritized the promise that he made it to his own biological daughter. At least that's what I believe. Gina has her own parents, she has her mom, she has her dad, and they could have handled the expenses of the vacation. and he could have contributed to it, but there was no reason for him to have gone out of his way and said that he was going to bed the entire cost of the trip, knowing that his own daughter was counting on him as well. So what he did was just not right. And even if I overlooked that, there was still the fact that he lied about all of it. Not just to me, but also to Katie. And that was obviously not right. So if he thought that I was being childish and immature for siding with Katie on this, so be it. I didn't care, so I didn't respond. But today, I thought that I better talk to him because it was not as if we could solve the problem by avoiding each other. So I answered the phone call, and he immediately started yelling at me, saying that I was acting crazy, and that it was just a small mistake that he had made, and we couldn't just pretend like he was the bad guy after everything that he had done for this family. He started going off about how he had always tried to be a good father, always tried to be there for Katie, to balance his life with his new family, and at the same time give Katie the importance that she deserves. And at the end of it, the least that he could ask for was that we could at least talk to him and try to sort things out with him instead of icing him out. After he was done yelling at me, I told him very politely that whatever he wanted to say, he had to say to Katie because at the end of the day, it was she that he needed to apologize to. I couldn't do anything about the situation right now, and if she chose not to forgive him, and if she chose not to talk to him right now, that was completely fair as well, because it was not just one mistake he made. It was about the lies that he told her to cover up that one mistake. I also told him that whatever he had done for this family and for Katie, it was his duty and responsibility as a father. He was not special for having done any of that. Every parent in the world does it, and there's no need for him to bring it up as if it were going to set him apart. After I said that, he got even more huffy, started telling me that there was no point in talking to me because I was being so irrational about the whole thing. And then he told me that Katie was being entitled, and that as her mother, I should be setting her straight instead of encouraging her behavior. That was even more infuriating for me, and I really lost my cool, because as far as I was concerned, Katie was far from entitled, and he knew it. He was only trying to make her seem entitled because he didn't want to take accountability for his own actions. He was the one who had promised her that he would get her a car for her 16th birthday. And it was not just once or twice. He had kept promising her for months. So, naturally, she had some expectations. But even when he told her that he wouldn't be able to do so, she did not throw a tantrum. She did not start fighting with him or whatever. It was not until she found out that he had lied that she decided to stop talking to him. So, if he really thought that it was about the car, then he was being obtuse on purpose. He knew exactly what it was about. He knew exactly why Katie did not want to talk to him. And he knew that it was his fault, which is why he was trying to make her seem like a bad guy, and I was not going to allow him to do that. So I made it very clear that she was not entitled. He was just being a lying jerk who was too much of a coward to take responsibility for his own actions and come to terms with the fact that his actions have consequences. In this case, the consequences include his daughter not want to talk to him because he betrayed her trust. I don't see anything wrong with that. And if he really wants to make it up to her, then he should try and talk to her instead of yelling at me, because that's not going to get him anywhere. After saying that, I hung up on him, and I muted all the notifications from him, because I really didn't want anything to do with him at the moment. He had really annoyed me, and I was determined not to help him out with Katie. Whatever he had done, he had to sort it out himself. This was his mess, not mine. Anyway, once I got home from work, Katie told me that a couple of minutes after the phone call with me, James had called her as well, but she was in school, so she couldn't answer. And as is, she had been ignoring him ever since she found out about the trip. So it wouldn't even have made a difference if she could answer the phone call, because she wouldn't have. She had not even opened any of his text messages for the last few days. But today, her phone started buzzing incessantly while she was coming back home. So she decided to finally check if it was her dad texting her, and it was. Earlier, his texts had been all spaced out, but today, he started spamming her, so she had to check. She thought that he would be apologizing, but he was pretty upset, and he was actually blaming her for all of this. I don't understand how he had the audacity to do all of that, even after having that conversation with me. But I had made it perfectly clear that he was the one at fault here, not her. and by the time Katie got home, she had read all the messages that her father had sent her, and she was really upset. Like I said, he had pinned the entire blame of the situation on her, saying that she was being too entitled. Which is crazy because it was right after the conversation that we had. And the only reason he had said it to her on text was because she had not picked up the phone call. Otherwise, he would have said it to her on the phone, and that would have been even worse. I don't even know how he is trying to make this seem like it was her fault, knowing what he did. With every passing second, he's coming off as a lot more selfish than I had initially believed him to be. And it's just really sad. To be honest, after this, if Katie decides that she's not going to talk to her father anymore, then I'm completely fine with that as well. After all, she's almost an adult. She's 16, and she can totally make her own decisions. If she doesn't want to talk to him, nobody can force her to. And I'm definitely not going to try and sort things out. As of now, I have no idea what she's going to do. She's very upset with her father, and she has actually blocked him everywhere, so he cannot reach out to her anymore. In a couple of days, she's supposed to go stay with him for the weekend, but she has said that she doesn't want to, and I understand. Given the current circumstances, I wouldn't even expect her to. I've told her that I'm fine with it, but I'm pretty sure that James will not be, and he will definitely show up to try and talk to her. If he cares, that is because right now I'm not sure if he does or not. The way he's behaving, it seems like he's completely fine with jeopardizing his relationship with his daughter. So I don't know what to expect from him anymore. The only thing that I can say is I just really feel bad about whatever is going on. I wish there were a way I could solve everything, but there is not, since this is between James and Katie. I guess the most that I can do is just be there for my daughter and be supportive of her. That's all. Other than that, I can only keep my fingers crossed and hope for the best. And I do hope that James comes to his senses and apologizes to Katie if he values his relationship with his daughter. But anyway, let's see what happens. Update 2. Hey, so like I had said in my previous post, James showed up today since Katie did not go to his place, and because she had blocked him, he couldn't contact her. So the only option was for him to show up. When I opened the door and let him in, it was pretty evident that he had a bit of an attitude, and he was acting very cold with me. It really annoyed me, because this is my house and he was under my roof, and he knew that this was all his fault. So, the least that he could have done was be a little apologetic and humble about it. But whatever. I tried to get Katie to come out of her room to meet her dad and talk to him, but she said that she wasn't going to do so, and that she wasn't interested in anything that he had to say. Only if he apologized to her, then would she come out and talk to him. That was her only condition, and I thought it was a pretty fair one. After all, he had created this whole situation by lying. So, I think she was in the right asking him to apologize. Besides, just a few days back, he had been blaming her for everything, knowing fully well that it was not actually her fault. So, I told him that he had better apologize to her, and then she would come out and talk to him and hear him out. But he told me that he was not doing any of that, and instead of encouraging her, I should be teaching her not to be so bratty and childish, and said that I was going on the wrong path once again. By then, I was exhausted with this whole situation. So I told him that if he was not going to apologize, then we had nothing to talk about. Katie had made it very clear that she was not interested in speaking to him unless he apologized first. So if he had no intention of doing that, then he was just wasting all our time by repeating the same thing over and over again. If he thought that I was being irrational and that Katie was being bratty and childish, then he should probably just leave us alone and not bother with us at all. But then he started telling me that he couldn't do that. She was his daughter after all, and he had just expected me to be a bit more reasonable because I was a parent. But I was also behaving like a child and encouraging her stupid behavior instead of getting her to be a little more mature about the whole thing. It was pretty exasperating because I think that Katie had been as mature as a 16-year-old could have been in a situation like this. He was the one who was acting like a child, refusing to take any sort of accountability for his actions, and pretending to be the victim in a situation that he himself had created. And I told him that if he was not going to apologize to Katie, then there was no point in him staying on longer. I thought I was being perfectly polite, but he started arguing with me, saying that I was being disrespectful and that I was teaching Katie the same things. being disrespectful and entitled, and that he couldn't believe that I was behaving like this. He got pretty loud, and that was when Katie came out, and she was the one who told him to cut it out, and said that she was the one who was upset with him. I had nothing to do with any of this. So he needs to stop bothering me about all of it, and she really lost it at him this time. She told him that she had tried her best to be respectful, but he was making it very difficult for her. She called him selfish, said that he had lied, and that he was so blind to everything that he himself was doing, that he was coming off as a total fool. Because if anything, he was the one teaching her everything wrong, lying about things, breaking promises, refusing to take accountability. And it was ironic that he was blaming me for not being a good example, when it was actually he who was the problem. And that she told him that she had already made it very clear to him that unless he was here to apologize, they had nothing to talk about. So instead of trying to push me around, he should probably try to introspect about where he went wrong and get out. When she told him to get out, he started yelling at her, saying that she had no right to speak to him like that, especially considering the fact that he was her father. And they got into a pretty nasty fight after that. Under normal circumstances, Katie is a pretty soft-spoken girl, and I've hardly ever seen her angry like this. And even when she does get mad, she doesn't yell at people like that. But I guess today, she was just really upset, and she couldn't help herself. In the end, things got to a point where I could barely even make out who exactly was screaming at the other. Both of them were so loud, and at the risk of the neighbors complaining about this, I decided to break the fight up. And I told James to just go home because he was just making everything worse. For a while he said no, and refused to go away and said that he was going to sort things out with Katie, and he was not going to be treated like this. But then I told him that I would call the cops if he didn't leave. And he seemed a bit scandalized at that. But eventually he did go away. After he left, Katie and I sat down and had a long chat together. She told me that she was very upset about the way her father was treating her, especially considering the fact that, so far, they had always had a very good relationship. So all of a sudden she doesn't know what has gotten into him, and she feels like she's not a priority for him anymore, which is very hurtful. And I totally get that. It really feels like he doesn't care for her anymore, because if he did, he wouldn't be behaving like this. Even today, he did not come here with the intention of solving the problem. He did not come here to sort things out with her. He just came here to get an apology out of her, or maybe just to pick a fight. At this point, I have no idea why he actually showed up. Maybe he just came here so he could say that at least he bothered to show up, and the rest was our fault. But whatever his reason was, nothing ended up getting sorted out. And I'm sorry to say this, but it was his own fault. As a parent, I obviously want Katie to be happy, and I know that she's not happy about this fight that's been going on with her father. And it's so annoying for me, because I know that James is being so pig-headed and stubborn right now. And it's insane that he can't even see it. I don't know what to say to him. I've tried every way to get him to realize that what he's doing is screwing up his own relationship with his daughter, but it seems like his priorities are elsewhere right now. Anyway, Katie spoke her heart out to me, and in the end, she ended up crying because she really didn't like fighting with people, especially us. So, I comforted her to the best of my abilities, but that was really all that I could do. I feel bad, but, well, there's not much that I can do about this problem right now. It's between father and daughter, and I just hope and pray that the father comes to his senses soon enough, because otherwise, I'm pretty sure that, given the way things are going at the moment, Katie might decide not to talk to him at all. So, for his own good, I hope that he sorts things out soon. Update 3. Hi. So, it's been 2 weeks since my last update, and for the past 2 weeks, Katie has been ignoring her father, and they have had absolutely no contact. I haven't had any contact with James either, because we mostly just spoke about Katie. And since they're not on talking terms right now, we didn't have anything to discuss. But today, he showed up once again, and this time, everything was significantly different about him. He was much more polite and subdued. And when I told him that I was not going to let him into the house if he did not tell me that he was able to apologize, he told me that that was exactly what he was here to do. But before that, he apologized to me as well, and told me that he had been wrong about everything, and that he was just being stubborn because he did not want to acknowledge the fact that he had been wrong. He told me that the only reason he had been trying to pretend as if he was the victim and everything else was everybody else's fault was because he was not ready to accept the fact that he had screwed up. He admitted that he had lied, and then he had tried to cover up for it, and then he had made everything so difficult for both of us by trying to be the victim when he was actually not. And for a while, he had tried to convince himself that he was doing the right thing, but he wasn't, and he didn't want to lose his relationship with Katie because of this. After he was done with his little speech and his apology to me, I decided to tell Katie that he was here to apologize. And finally, they decided to talk it out. He acknowledged his mistakes. He apologized for all of it and said that he really wants to make it up to her. He actually said that he was going to buy her the car that he had promised. But Katie said that she would like to wait it out for a couple of weeks because she was not yet ready to forgive him altogether. Had this apology come earlier, she would have forgiven him readily. But the fact that he had lied and then gone to the extent of covering up and gaslighting all of us into believing that we were the bad guys really hurt her. So now she needed some time to process everything, and only then would she be able to forgive him. I thought that he would be mad about it, but surprisingly he was very understanding, and he said that he totally agrees, but whenever she's ready, he would love to make it up to her. In the end, they did hug it out, and I was happy that at least things are getting better. I'm glad that he realized that he had screwed up and tried to make it better, and I hope this doesn't ever happen again because it was pretty stressful for all of us.